All right. There. All right. Good. All right. Good morning, everybody. We're going to call things to order for our Tuesday, June 30th Board of Commissioners meeting. Would you please rise if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. And if we do want to give a hearty happy birthday to our High Sheriff, Brian Samsel. Brian's joining us today, so we're not going to sing. Don't worry, Brian. Don't worry.
Let me sing.
Yeah, but happy birthday, Brian.
Happy birthday, Brian.
And we have one other one coming up later in the week,
Soon.
I think, as well. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, happy birthday, Brian. Thanks for all you do for Center County. We do want to offer the opportunity for public comment on items not on today's agenda. If there is any public comment, feel free to address us at the podium. If there are items for public comment while we are under discussion in that item, we'll take them during that time frame. So anybody on the phone or would like to make any public comment at this time? Okay, seeing no one and hearing no one on the phone, we will again take public comment for items on our agenda when they're under discussion. We'll move then to the minutes from the last week's meeting, Tuesday, June 23rd. We'd look for a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes from the June 23rd Board of Commissioners meeting.
I will second that. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Any further discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion is carried. Okay. We'll move into Resolution 16 of 2020, and this is a resolution in regards to masking here in Center County and across the Commonwealth. What we wanted to do was to talk a little bit about where we've been with masking, where the country, where the state, where our community is at, and then take some time to look at the resolution that we have before us today. We do want to make everybody aware that we are not going to be taking any final action on this resolution to approve or do anything of that fashion. The timeline would be where we would potentially move it to next week's consent agenda, so it would be on the agenda for final adoption on Tuesday, July 7th. So, jumping into the presentation here. So, from the data we've seen from the scientists, the health experts, we've learned that during COVID-19, a pandemic where it's passed on primarily by asymptomatic individuals, people who show no signs of being sick, through breathing, coughing, laughing, singing, etc. And those droplets are breathed in by other people touch them, and then contract COVID. Masking is one of the best ways that we can save lives and bring back jobs. And so we wanted to walk again a little bit through some of the research, some of the data that we're seeing, and some of the perspectives that we're hearing from other people throughout our community and country. So the first thing is to say a huge thank you to our community. As we all know, Center County has been having a relatively low amount of cases for COVID-19, and that is due in huge part to the individuals in our community that are doing the masking, the hand hygiene, and the social distancing, then also getting tested for COVID-19 when they're developing symptoms, and if testing positive, doing the quarantining and isolating. That is huge. And so a huge thank you. And then a huge thank you to the business community. They've put in place safety protocols, safety measures to keep everybody in our community safe. And so we appreciate that so much and just want to start by saying thank you. And so again, a huge thank you for wearing your mask. So this is a little bit of data in terms of the shelter-in-place analysis that's done by a website called Cubic, and they use cell phone data to track movement in an anonymous way. Also, there are certain apps that we have on our phones that when we download them, we actually are agreeing to share data. With certain companies that, again, track data and use it for marketing and other type of purposes. So we showed this back in March when we were seeing a decline in a rise in the people who were staying home. So this green section down here is individuals who are essentially traveling no more than 330 feet, okay, in a day And that's the percentage of people staying at home. Our high point was in April. We had about 54% of people staying at home. So if we go back to January when we had no cases in the United States of COVID-19, again, it was the winter, but we had about 30% who were staying at home. We had a little bit who were traveling less than 1 mile away from their home. We had a considerable amount of people who were doing more than 10 miles, 1 to 10 miles, and then the greatest amount here up top was over 10 miles. So we can see when the students were here, there was a lot of movement. Obviously, if they're living on campus, if they're living downtown, they're essentially just, coming to their apartments, going to class. So that made up a considerable amount of this yellow movement here. But as they left for spring break, and then as they did not return, we've had that small portion. As the stay-at-home orders went in place, we had obviously individuals staying at home. But as we've seen, again, going from the red phase to the yellow phase to the green phase, and as weather's warmed up, people are moving outside, we are actually seeing us going back to a similar rate in terms of where we were. Again, this is during the winter, so again, people are probably staying in more, but still, it is returning to similar levels. And so we're probably going to see as we get into, again, July, August, this stay-at-home number decreasing further, and most likely seeing it return to February and March levels. So from what we're seeing with the data, where masks aren't required in states, and it's really been a state-by-state decision, the national federal government has not given us any guidance on this in terms of coming from the president. Some of his advisors have said yes or no on it, and we'll get into that. But really, it's been a state-by-state decision. And so when we don't wear the masks, we're really threatening the progress we've made as a community, and especially when the students return. When we have the Penn State students returning, it's going to be very important that we as a community demonstrate and model good behavior. And so it also is threatening our lives. As we know, COVID-19 can be deadly to certain people who contract it, and it also threatens our economy, where we're hearing a lot of good messaging out there now that's encouraging people to mask up so we can preserve the progress we've made and, again, bring back jobs. So this is some data compiled by the Inquirer, and it's coming from states where mask use was mandatory, mask use was required by some, and then required by certain businesses, and then recommended but not required. And from this period of early June into mid-June, and this doesn't even have the worst time that we've had with COVID, which has been the last week, so from really today until the 22nd of June, we've seen the states where it's mandatory in public or required, and the ones where it's recommended, there's actually been a decrease in cases in these states and an increase in cases in the states where it's been recommended and not required. And these are your Texases, your Floridas, your Arizonas. And so now what we're seeing in those communities, in certain cities, are where the local municipalities who have the ability to mandate mask wearing are putting that in place because they've seen the success of these states and they want to model it rather than having these cases continue to climb. So really, I think something that really captures the debate, the conversation, we'll say, about mask wearing has been a campaign that the National Association of Manufacturers, or NAM, is doing. They're the largest manufacturing association in the United States, representing folks in all 50 states. They launched last Tuesday, a week from today, a wear a face covering ad campaign. And their 3 points are: it's essential to saving lives, safeguarding jobs, and reopening businesses. And actually, ads are running in Pennsylvania on social media, so you may see this ad, and we'll play it in a second. But just wanted to take a moment to highlight the words that NAM President Jay Timmons said last week. He's basically saying there's no way to sugarcoat this. We need to get back to work. We can't stay at home forever. But the virus is spreading in significant ways, and if it continues, that's going to lead to further economic devastation. And his main point: if everyone wears a mask outside the home, maintains social distancing with anyone other than their family, and practices appropriate hygiene procedures, we can get back to work. Tens of millions of people can come off of unemployment and get back to work. But if large groups of people refuse to wear masks, they are condemning their fellow citizens to long-term unemployment and our economy to disaster. There's no excuses left. While we have learned more and more about this deadly virus, the guidance from our nation's health experts has evolved. So today we know the best way to stop the spread of COVID-19 is for everyone to wear a face covering. It isn't fun, it isn't pleasant, but through shared responsibility, we can get this pandemic under control and save small businesses and jobs. And that's why their association is taking the message across the country. Our economy depends on it, jobs depend on it, and most importantly, lives depend on it. And I think this last point he makes is especially poignant. The Golden Rule tells us that we should do unto others as we would have them do unto us. Covering our faces in public is a simple but powerful expression of the Golden Rule. It's so much more than a mere gesture. So I wanted to take a moment to watch the ad, and you'll have to pay attention because there's we're actually called out in a good way, I think. Beaver Stadium is referenced in this video. So we'll take a minute to load this up. So again, we'll see a lot of these ads, hopefully, that are business community supporting masking, supporting this, and so wanted to share that today. Also, some comments that were made actually just yesterday by the U.S. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. We'll have to wait for this ad to finish here, but we wanted to play these because I think these are really poignant coming from his perspective in the Senate. He's actually been a big advocate. We're seeing Kentucky having some cases crop back, so we wanted to share this message as well from Mitch McConnell.
We cannot go back to April, and we cannot go right back to normal. We need new routines, new rhythms, and new strategies for this new middle ground in between. It's the task of each family, each small business, each employer, and all levels of government to apply common sense and make this happen. To name just one example, we must have no stigma, none, about wearing masks when we leave our homes and come near other people. Wearing simple face coverings is not about protecting ourselves, it is about protecting everyone we encounter. In fact, the more we hate the pain and suffering that accompanied the strict stay-home guidelines a few months ago, the happier we should be to take responsible, small steps every day to ensure our country can stay on offense against the virus.
And then lastly, just on Sunday, the U.S. Human Services or Health and Human Services Secretary Alec Azar was on Meet the Press, and he also had a similar message in some of his closing comments on that show.
But the window is closing. We have to act, and people as individuals have to act responsibly. We need to social distance. We need to wear our face coverings if we're in settings where we can't social distance, particularly in these hot zones.
So returning to the presentation, some other examples of individuals spotlighting our own senator from Pennsylvania who serves in Washington, Pat Toomey. Senator Toomey was actually the first member of Congress back on March 28th of 2020 to endorse the Masks for All movement. And he said in a tweet from that day, research shows that fluids spread when coughing, sneezing are big transmitters of COVID-19. Each of us needs to do what we can to stop the spread. One easy thing that we can do today is wear homemade masks in public. My mask could help you, your mask could help me. And then lastly, the U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Jerome Adams, back in mid-June, had said, and I think, again, this is a great message that we haven't been hearing, we need to hear more of, which is some face coverings infringe on their freedoms, and some people feel that way. But if we wear them, we'll have more freedoms to go out. face coverings equal less asymptomatic viral spread, equals more places open and sooner. Exercise and promote your freedom by choosing to wear a face covering. And he has a photo there of him in D.C. I show my patriotism by wearing a face covering in public. So turning then to the state's response and the state's messaging, this was a press release that Governor Wolf sent out on Friday reiterating that masks are mandatory in Pennsylvania businesses. And from the press release, it states masks are required in businesses for the entire time someone is visiting a business. It's that simple and that important to continue to safely reopen the state and as our cases counts are on the decline. Wearing masks in a business or when in a public space where social distancing can't be maintained is required. It's a vital practice to stop the spread of COVID-19. It's also a sign of respect for others because your mask is protecting them. And he says, let's continue to get through this together. So again, to emphasize the point, it's not just wearing a cloth mask. That's a huge, huge way and a big way to reduce the spread, but it's also continuing to do the practices of social distancing and also the washing often of our hands. So turning to the resolution, which is what we're considering and looking at today, it's a 5-page resolution that really details many of the things that were discussed today in terms of the comments that have been made from individuals in the healthcare community, talking about the data that we're seeing and the need to wear face coverings during a respiratory pandemic. And to note, in the resolution, we're calling attention to the fact that as of the 28th of June, at least 2.5 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 were in the United States. Many of them have thankfully recovered, which is amazing, but we still have had that many cases, and we know that cases are on the increase in many areas of the country, and where at least 125,000 people have died from COVID-19. Again, more than that can fill Beaver Stadium and then some. And again, it goes through a lot of the things that we talked about today. It also references Dr. Anthony Fauci, who has said that, and this was in his testimony last week to Congress, he made a plea to Americans to recommit to wearing masks, washing their hands, getting tested, and staying at home as a matter of patriotism. We also include in the resolution a little bit about how to wear a mask. We know people have sometimes taken it down to speak with people. It's really important to wear the mask whenever you're interacting with somebody, again, in a business or in public settings where social distancing is not required. So as it comes to Pennsylvania, again, the guidance that's been provided by the Governor and Secretary of Health for businesses and for the guidance that is for restaurants require all customers to wear masks when they're on a premises. We do want to recognize and we do want to say that there are medical conditions that do preclude people from wearing masks. Also, young people 2 years and younger are not required to wear a mask, and so we do want to recognize that. And if there's a medical condition out there, absolutely, you have to do what's best for your health. And then in terms of what we're resolving to do, what we're talking about with the resolution is we're endorsing it and supporting the governor's action to have mandatory masking in Pennsylvania. And we're calling on all of our residents and thanking them, asking them to continue wearing the masks and to please continue to do so as we go into the future. And we're also thanking, again, the businesses, the nonprofits, institutions of faith, and other organizations who have encouraged the wearing of cloth masks, again, to help protect people and safely reopen the economy. Lastly, we are endorsing the fact that it's saving lives, safeguarding businesses, and bringing jobs back. Also mentioning the fact that a part of our $14.7 million CARES Act funding, we will be looking at how we can continue to invest in masks and other protective equipment. We're also encouraging all the municipalities to read our resolution, look at it, take it into consideration, look at the data, look at the science, and look at the health of their citizens and residents. And then we would also transmit a copy of them. And if they would just want to remove our County of Center, put in Borough of Bellefonte, Township of Spring, however they would like to do it, we're fine with that. We want this to be used and recreated as much as possible. So I'll stop there, and again, I'll just close by saying we know that masks can save lives, bring back jobs, and again, help avoid another shutdown. And I think the thing that makes our community unique, because from our perspective, we have not seen any other counties in Pennsylvania doing something like this, a resolution or an ordinance. And the reason why I think it's so important is we're going to be having tens of thousands of students coming back. And we know that that population is, again, thankfully very, they do not get too sick when they get COVID-19 from the research. Again, it's a novel coronavirus that could change. But the fact that they may be potentially coming as asymptomatic interact with our community, it's very important that we are modeling behavior for them. So we would love it when they come back. If they come, they start walking around downtown, they're out shopping, they're going out to Milheim, Bellefonte for restaurants, and they're seeing us as community members wearing masks. It's very important, again, that we're modeling that behavior. So I'll stop there. We can discuss the resolution. I'll turn it over to you, Commissioner Higgins, for any comments. But again, thank everybody for wearing your mask and keeping each other safe.
I have some brief comments. We are in a stressful time. This is the first worldwide pandemic in 102 years. We are going to get through this here in Center County, and we're going to be stronger for it. Yes, wearing a mask, either of cloth or paper, on your face is a little inconvenient and annoying, especially when it's warm outside. But as Commissioner Pipe showed, the research has come in. We've got different states doing different things, and for the most part, states that are requiring masks when you visit businesses are seeing stable to dropping diagnoses of COVID-19. States that are somewhere in the middle are seeing either small decreases or medium-sized increases. States that are like, do whatever you want, seeing very, very large increases in COVID-19 diagnoses. So here in Center County, we need to come together. We need to wear masks and face coverings. We need to distance from each other. We need to wash our hands. And we need to buy from our local businesses. Our local businesses, a lot of them are hurting right now. Takeout, there's no risk to takeout. I think it's a 1 on a scale of 10. I've now been visiting local restaurants and eating outdoors. Okay, it's a little riskier. That's a 4 on a scale of 10. But if I'm wearing a mask when I'm not eating, if the servers are wearing masks the entire time, I think at this point we have no spreading incidents in Center County based on a well-run business and customers that are following the guidelines. So I would please urge our local residents to visit your local businesses. We're in I think Mitch McConnell said we're in the medium area right now. So let's visit our local businesses, visit our local restaurants, but let's do it safely. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So we have the resolution in front of us, and we've gotten we put it online over the weekend. I had asked people to comment on it, share it, and get feedback, and we got some really good feedback. And so in the copy that's available here, we'll also be having it on the website, the county website, there's some edits in green where we're adding in new language or moving it around within the document. But we are going to be having comment or suggestions for the next week open on this as we go into next week. But the action that we would be taking here in terms of final action would be in July 7th, a week from today, if we do move it to the consent agenda. So any other changes, comments you wanted to make, Commissioner?
Well, thank you very much for making the changes in green. That was much easier to see than usual.
Sure.
No, so far, everything seems to be based on research and science. And to your point, if the students come back to a community where everyone's wearing masks, we're all comfortable with it, our businesses have everybody kind of trained that, hey, you're just hanging around outside, it's not crowded, maybe you don't need a mask, but once you enter my business, we've all been used to no shirt, no shoes, no service now for decades. That was more of a basic hygiene situation. With masks, it's going to save lives, might not be yours, but it could quite possibly be a loved one or a next door neighbor. So, if we can normalize this behavior here in Center County, when the students come back, there'll be a lot more likely that most of them will be wearing masks. If they come back and it's a haphazard, do whatever you feel like situation, we have one local hospital. I know people think it's a big hospital, but it's not a very big hospital. We need to do what we have to do right now to keep everyone safe and to ensure that when the students come back, it's as safe as we can make it.
Thank you, thank you. So again, we'll have the resolution out there, and we'd love to hear from people. Again, you can reach us at our email, boc@centercountypa.gov. So at this time, we'll welcome any public comment on the resolution for anybody who's on the phone or in our audience. Is anyone here for public comment? Okay. Seeing no one and hearing no one, we will then look for a motion.
Motion to add resolution number 16 of 2020 to next week's consent agenda.
I will second that. It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion on this? Okay. Hearing and seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion is carried. Okay. We know that there's a business opportunity. Since we're under the planning and response, we want to talk about that at this point? The grant
Sure,
announcement?
sure,
Does that work?
certainly.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll bring the website up and whatnot.
So what we're talking about now a little bit is the COVID-19 Relief Statewide Small Business Assistance Program. This is more of the CARES Act money funneling from the federal government to the state government to our local businesses. This one's for smaller businesses with under $1 million in annual revenue and 25 or fewer full-time employees. The grants start at $5,000 for fairly small businesses and go up to $50,000 to businesses that start approaching $1 million of annual revenue. There are, I believe, 2 community finance groups that are available for Center County. We didn't practice this, so I don't know what's happening on the
Oh, no, you're
screen
okay.
behind me.
So this
Okay.
is the and this was
Yeah.
just announced or just released 90 minutes ago, too.
Right, yes.
Just the application.
So the applications opened up just this morning with $100 million available. I think the window is, what, about 7 to 10 days?
Yeah, we have,
10 days.
yeah, and then, again, that was just announced
Yeah.
two hours ago.
Yeah.
So,
So you have 10 days to apply. I'm assuming the money will be distributed pretty quickly because a lot of the CARES Act guidelines come up quite fast. It's a grant, so it's not a loan. There's no matching funds required, and you can use it for a broad variety of business-related purposes. We would urge Center County businesses to take advantage of this. I think our population, at least according to the current census, runs about 1.25% of the state's population. So hopefully, if there's $100 million available, Center County businesses could receive $1 million or more from this program. There is also additional money available for small and disadvantaged businesses, of which I know we have a few in Center County. So there, hopefully, that group could receive some additional funds as well. Great opportunity for Center County businesses. And we have a broad variety of other programs available. I know the CEDACOG loan pool is almost fully used, but there's a little bit of money left. And then coming up, hopefully by the end of July into August, we're going to have the county program, where some fraction of that $14.4 million that goes to the local community will be distributed again as grants, no match required, not a loan, to local businesses as well.
in terms of some of the guidelines here, it seems like it's relatively low threshold. I mean, you're familiar,
Yeah.
Commissioner, with the PPP program,
Right.
CEDACOG's program, but this seems like it's a not a lower threshold, but I guess it's focused on smaller businesses that may not have the time and resources to gather
Right.
everything, in their filing cabinet, and it makes it a little bit simpler. So this is a website from the Progress Fund, and again, the Progress Fund is, as Commissioner mentioned, a CDFI that serves Center County, and there's a link right on their website.
As I remember, basically they just say, please scan the documents and attach them.
Yep.
So for most people either have a scanner or a pretty good quality cell phone, just try to take the picture in good lighting of the documents.
And then in terms of resources here in the community that are able to help fill out, is there any, yeah.
So our local chambers of commerce have some expertise in this area. The Penn State SBDC is very willing to help. And then there are other groups such as SCORE, which also has some background in this area. So the MVEDP over toward Phillipsburg also has a great staff. Bellefonte Chamber of Commerce, CBICC, let's see, there's so many different groups here in the area. Ben Franklin, if you're a Ben Franklin client, So we've got a great ecosystem here in Center County for our startups, our entrepreneurs, and our small business people. If you're confused by any of the rules, need a little help, pick up the phone, pop them an email. They'd be happy to help you out.
Okay. So, again, we just learned about that. We knew it was going to be released today. We weren't sure of all the specifics of the websites, but they have that available there. But if you, progressfund.org is the main website there. Okay. Moving on to the COVID, or the County Relief Block Grant. Turn it over to Margaret.
Thank you very much. As everyone is aware, the county submitted an application for the County Relief Block Grant under the CARES Act. We have received the contract that was approved last Tuesday. We've submitted the invoice, and we are awaiting the allocation of $14.7 million. The next task at hand is for the Board of Commissioners to be considering the allocation of those funds, and a resource that may be helpful in that process is presented here this morning with a proposal from Zelenkowski Axelrod, known to us as ZA, to provide technical assistance and advice in relation to the policies, procedures, accountability, and monitoring of the expenditures of the CARES Act funding. If you were to proceed with an arrangement with ZA, they would be a resource among others that you could reach out to and ask for clarification about allowable expenditures, assistance with compliance types of questions, because we know that that's a very important area of concern. And it would be an hourly basis only on an as-used basis. So there's no minimum, there's no threshold. It's if you need an hour of consulting, you can have an hour of consulting. That's what is on the table for discussion this morning, and it could be thought about and considered next week.
Okay. Thank you, Margaret. Yeah, from my perspective, I think they reached out to us. They're big members of CCAP and work with a lot of counties, and they have this ability to tap into what other counties are working on and doing, and sharing best practices. I think at this point, learning a little bit more about how they could be of assistance to us would be helpful. We had an initial conversation with them, but I think maybe delving a little bit more into it. But I really like the fact that they, again, are hourly. We use them, we don't use them. I think that's something very beneficial. I know DCED is still going to be putting on some workshops. We also have CCAP that's doing that. And so I think this kind of approach, if we would want to get technical assistance, that an hourly approach is the best way to do it, and the fact that they're offering that is good. So I think moving it to, or tabling it until Thursday, and potentially taking an action there would be something that I'd be supportive of, just so that we're moving the ball forward, but we still can do a little bit more research on if this would be a good entity to join our team.
Yeah, that sounds good. To explain for the people at home, an issue with the $14.4 million or so that we'll be distributing to the local community in 7 different funding pots. If we don't do it properly, there's a term called clawbacks. And that would be the states and the feds saying, hey, you didn't follow the rules, you didn't follow the guidance. There's $200,000 here that we feel was not properly distributed. We may have to claw that $200,000 back. It would be great if we spent a few $100 getting knowledgeable advice so that we don't end up in that situation. We want to help our small businesses, our nonprofits. We would like to provide more human services. We want to reimburse our own costs here we've had internally within the county, which I think is actually our next item on the agenda. But we want to do so properly and following the rules and guidelines. And I think this consulting opportunity will help us do that. But I agree, I think we need to delve into it a little bit deeper, maybe refine a few more things. So I would be fine tabling it to Thursday.
Okay, sounds good. Would you want to make that a motion?
Sure. Motion to table the proposal from Zelensky. How's that?
ZA.
Just ZA.
We've been saying ZA.
Motion to table the proposal from ZA until our meeting on Thursday.
I will second that. It's been moved and seconded to move and table the proposal. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay. Thank you, Margaret, on that. So we're going to welcome up Carrie Hull to discuss a PCCD application. It's good to see you, Carrie. Good morning.
Good to see you. Good morning. I'm here to ask the board's consideration to grant permission for me to make application to the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency in the amount of up to $107,146 for federal coronavirus emergency supplemental funding, is what they're titling it. This funding must be utilized to support state and local law enforcement efforts to prevent, prepare, and respond to the coronavirus. So it is a formula-based. PCCD had roughly $8 million that they released and was divided amongst the 67 counties. That funds must go through our Criminal Justice Advisory Board. That board voted electronically on Friday and supports the submission of an application. There's certain parameters with this grant. So they define county law enforcement community to include our county jail, our juvenile detention center, our local law enforcement agencies, our district attorney's office, our county probation parole office, our judiciary and courthouse, victim service providers, and other relevant criminal justice stakeholders. And then they also allow for certain expenses to include overtime, equipment, such as PPE, supplies for cleaning and sanitizing, as well as hiring and travel expenses, and then any other relevant item that we can make, a plea for them to consider. So the application is due next Monday, July 6th, so I'm requesting the board consider making an immediate action today and not moving it to consent agenda. Some of the items that we're considering at this point are going to be some plastic chairs that are not covered in fabric to support quite a few of our offices, our probation department, our MDJ office. They'll be easier to disinfect and clean. As well, we're looking at possibly some equipment or supplies for the correctional facility. We're still getting some quotes on some of those things, but we're looking into that. Some overtime for our probation department because they have not been able to see their clients as they normally would. So covering those expenses. Center Safe had a list of supplies that they needed, and we'd like to help fulfill those needs, as well as our juvenile detention center. They're in need of some sort of carpet cleaner, steam cleaner, so they can sanitize the detention center, and some other PPE supplies. So we're going to try and get as much as we can for as many departments, including our local municipal police departments as well. They do indicate that they may release another $8 million in the fall, but we don't have a guarantee on that. And then hopefully whatever we can't cover in this funding could perhaps be considered for other funding sources as well.
Okay. Thank you, Carrie. In terms of the time frame when the expenditure had to occur, and then what's the cutoff? What is that time frame?
So unlike other funding that PCCD normally announces, we can go retroactive back until, I believe, January 20th. So we could recoup some of the costs, for example, the Citrix licenses for some of the departments to have remote access. That's being considered as well. But we can select our start date and go back, and then it's up to 2 years we have to spend the funds. Most of what we're going to do is probably going to be expended rather quickly, just based on, the supply and demand for the items that we need to purchase.
Sir. Okay, thank you. Any question? Yeah.
Carrie, you raised a good point. In Center County government, we have about 50 different departments that all apply for different types of grants with different rules and guidelines. And in this case, what we may be able to do is to take some expenses that the county has had and apply them against this grant, which would then free up more money from the $14.4 million because one of the 7 groups that can receive funding is Center County government for things like the extra computer licenses we needed to buy to have all of our employees work remotely. Well, then that frees up more money for the small businesses, for the nonprofits, for the local municipalities. Appreciate you doing your work on that. The other point is It's coming to almost exactly 1 1/3% of the 8 million is our share of the 107,146. So as you said, it's based completely on population. So the census is really important because this is a case where the census determines exactly to the penny how much funding we receive. The 4 of us have been receiving emails from the census pretty often, and there are drastic differences in the percentages of people who have filled out their census forms by municipality. I think we have some municipalities that are running 2.5 times the response rate of our couple of municipalities that are kind of lagging behind. So if you haven't filled out your census documents, please do so, because within weeks, you're going to have census people knocking on your door.
So again, just echoing Commissioner Higgins' comments, thank you for all the work you're doing on this. We know it was, $1 here, $10 here, 20, but it means a lot. It means a lot to the entities you're helping during this difficult time, Carrie, so thank you very much. We appreciate it so much. All right, so any other questions, comments on this discussion? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion?
Motion to approve the application to PCCD.
I will second that. It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion is carried. Okay, thank you, Carrie, very much. All right, Margaret, we'll turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you. First item that I have for you is a contract renewal with the Penn State Psychological Clinic to provide services for staff and those incarcerated. Services will be provided 3 hours per week for 45 weeks, totaling $16,875 for the period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th of 2021. Again, this is a contract renewal and a service that the correctional facility really depends on and values. The second item is an assurance agreement with Axon Enterprise for 10 additional body cameras at the correctional facility. The agreement includes maintenance and software licensing for each camera, and the purchase will be made from the commissary account and will be reimbursed through a Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency grant, PCCD grant. Total cost over a period of 4 years is $26,496, which is funded with state dollars of $9,216 and county dollars of $17,280.
Thank you, Margaret. Any questions, comments for Margaret on this?
2 great contracts, happy to see them, and of course the commissioners do support the use of body cameras by not only our own staff, but other law enforcement groups throughout the county.
Yeah, the grant for this is very helpful and very meaningful. So again, that was work. Carrie worked very closely with that one, so I want to thank her as well. So, okay, we look for a motion.
Motion to add the contract renewal with Penn State Psychological Clinic and the assurance agreement with Axon Enterprises, Inc. to next week's consent agenda.
I will second that. It's been moved and seconded. Any final questions, comments on this? Okay. Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor of approving, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried for next week's consent agenda. Okay. And so we are going to be joined now via phone by our Chief Information and Records Officer, Chad Joyce.
Oh.
Chad, good morning.
Good morning. How's everyone doing?
We're doing well, Chad. Thank you.
Good, how are you?
Doing great, thanks. This morning I have 2 contract items for consideration. The first is a contract termination notice with Sage Technology. Sage has provided us support for our Mites Health phone systems, and with our current terms and conditions, there is a 30-day notice for contract termination. So today is the request to approve the contract termination with Sage Technology, and I will have another contract for the board to consider for a Mites Health phone partner within the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chad. Any questions, comments on this item? Okay. Seeing none, would there be a motion?
Motion to approve the notice of contract termination for Sage Technology Solutions.
I will second that. It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion, questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. The motion is carried. Okay.
Great, and the next item is a contract for consideration. It is a renewal with Arctic Wolf. The contract is done through RBA. The Arctic Wolf provides a number of cybersecurity services for the county, helps protect a lot of our information and machines. The contract total is for $83,083.20, and it runs for a period of 1 year from July 11th, 2020 to July 10th, 2021. Arctic Wolf is a partner we've had at the county for a couple of years now, helping us.
Okay, thank you, Chad. Any questions, comments for Chad?
Oh, sounds great. Glad we have that system in place. There's a lot of bad guys out there in cyberspace. We want to be a place where it's very difficult to get in, so they move on to somebody else.
Okay, motion.
Motion to add the contract renewal for Arctic Wolf to next week's consent agenda.
I will second that. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. The motion is carried. Thank you, Chad. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Okay, Dave, we're going to welcome you up. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me here today. I come before the board and ask for consideration to move our Community Public Transportation Services Program grant agreement from the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation and Bureau of Public Transportation. This is for our shared ride lottery and persons with disabilities program for the 2021 fiscal year. The total grant award that they've indicated is $653,000 for the shared ride and persons with disability programs, with $576,000 going to shared ride senior lottery program, and $77,000 for the persons with disabilities. That's similar amount to last year, in consideration of things going in the right direction now. Thank goodness. Anxious to get more people on the vans.
Okay, is there a motion?
Motion to add the Community Public Transportation Grant Agreement to next week's consent agenda.
I will second that. It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. The motion is carried. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you
Appreciate it.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, on our consent agenda, we have several items, but we think we're going to pull one out, and this would be the assignment of cooperation agreement, Margaret.
That is correct.
Okay.
If we could table that until Thursday, that would be helpful.
Okay, would there be a motion to title item AI on the consent agenda?
You said table?
Did you say?
Table.
Yeah, table. I'm sorry, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Motion to table item AI, the assignment of cooperation agreement between Navitas and Center First.
I will second that. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on tabling? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The same sign. The motion is carried. Okay. Then we have the rest of the consent agenda. Would there be a motion to approve the remaining items on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the remaining items on today's consent agenda.
I will second that. It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Okay. Margaret, anything to report under Administrator's report today?
Yes, I have two
Okay,
items
thank
this
you.
morning. I wanted to remind everyone that this is the time of year when our Human Services Office holds block grant hearings, a Human Services Block Grant for the Human Services Block Grant Plan this year for fiscal year 2020 through 21. The hearings are being held virtually because of our COVID-19 situation. The first one was held on Monday, June 29th, yesterday at 1 o'clock, and the second is this afternoon at 5 o'clock, also being held via Zoom, and I have information here if anybody would be interested in that link information. The second item relates to the 2020 Pennsylvania CARES Rent Relief Program. The county has been approved for the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency by them to administer the 2020 Pennsylvania CARES Rent Relief Program. And any resident or landlord who is interested in this program can visit the PHFA website to review the eligibility criteria, and that website went live yesterday. And we also have information about it on the county's website. The actual rent relief program opens officially on Monday, July 6th. So if there's an interest, now's the time to go out and look at some of that eligibility criteria. You can certainly contact our adult services offices for more information. A press release was distributed yesterday to make sure everyone is aware of that program. So
It's great news, welcome news, and we really encourage individuals to take part in that if they can. So that's excellent. Thank you, Margaret. Thank
As I
you.
remember,
Thank you.
the statewide number for that was quite large.
it is, and I do not yet have confirmation of the exact number being allocated to Center County, but it is, I believe, going to be a significant amount for people to tap into. So it's really excellent, and another example of a CARES Act funding stream that we don't want to lose sight of, and we want to make sure that people are aware of.
And probably, again, based mostly on our population in Center County.
That seems to be the allocation formula used for much of this money, is the population number.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you very much. We'll go to the check run. Commissioner Higgins.
About half as large as normal check run of $714,519.42. The check of the week is to Breon's Inc. for $12,248.87 to help maintain all the various motors and equipment that keep our 911 department and all of the towers that we run functioning, so that when you call 911, somebody answers the phone, and we're able to contact all of our various emergency responders throughout the county utilizing a very sophisticated communication network. So I very much would like to thank our local company, Breon's Inc. I believe they're in Pleasant Gap, and I think they say if it's got an engine or a motor, they can fix it. So would like to make the motion to approve the check run dated June 26th.
I will second that. It's been moved and seconded to approve the check run dated June 26, 2020. Is there any further discussion on the check run? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the check run, say aye. Aye. The motion is carried. Okay. We would move to announcements at this time, and we do want to remind everybody that this Friday, in observance of Independence Day, we will be closed on Friday, July 3rd, and we wish everybody a happy weekend, and again, stay safe and stay healthy as you go into the weekend. Any executive sessions that we need to report, Margaret?
Yes, the Board of Commissioners met in executive session on Friday, June 26th, from 3:32 to 4:15 p.m. to discuss personnel and legal matters.
Thank you.
And we also need to meet in executive session today as well.
Today as well.
Yep.
Okay. At the conclusion of the meeting?
At the conclusion of the meeting, yes.
All right. At this time, we will accept any questions from anybody. Yeah, please, Marley. Yeah.
I have a question about masking.
Sure.
With masks being mandatory in Pennsylvania, what should residents, business owners, customers do if they see someone or something that's not adhering to the state mandate?
Sure. So I think the first thing is to practice empathy. There's a lot of reasons why individuals do not wear masks, and certainly being sensitive to that. If there are individuals that have a medical condition and they're not wearing a mask, that's so I would personally recommend not approaching somebody. It's just I wouldn't do that. But I would suggest going to the business themselves and having a conversation with them about how do they allow people into the stores, in terms of are they asking them to put masks on if they don't have masks, or reminding them of the policy. But I think that's the best course of action. I haven't heard yet of somebody who wasn't wearing a mask being approached by somebody who has a mask in a store and them pulling one out and putting it on. So again, I think the business owners, they can take responsibility and work with the customers. Again, signage that it talks about the need to protect others, I think, is important. Signage that says thank you for wearing a mask. Signage that says I wear a mask because of my loved ones, or I wear a mask because of my grandmother or daughter. Things like that. I think that provide people a sense of if you wear a mask, it's because you want to protect the community. I think that's going to get us to good places. So the more they can do that, the better. I think I'll throw a shout out to Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's has a great image as you walk into Trader Joe's. It's a lion mascot, and it's got different ways that you shouldn't wear a mask, and then one that you can. It's kind of a humorous, or it's a lighthearted way to remind people to wear their masks. So things like that, I think are the best way to approach it. Yeah.
And our cameras have observed, unfortunately, some number of college students downtown in rather large groups without masks on. What do you feel is the best method, consequence-based or otherwise, to get them to mask up? The best messaging system to get them, is it, if you don't do this, you might not be back at Penn State? Because some are saying that the caring for others idea just isn't resonating with them, unfortunately.
Sure.
So maybe if you make it more direct to the students themselves that, hey, if they don't social distance, they could be back home again or campus could be shut down again.
Sure.
Just a question, what do you think is the best method to deter them from these bad practices?
Absolutely. I think you hit it on the head, Evan. There's multiple ways to do it, and whether it's, would you like a deferred graduation? Do you want an in-person graduation? Do you enjoy the camaraderie you have at Penn State versus doing virtual classes, if that's what happens with the university? I think it's, having, parents being involved with that, and talking to their kids about the importance of it. I think a lot of young people are really mindful of the dangers that present to other family members. So I think that, and one of the challenges that we're learning about this virus is it's ever evolving and it's a new virus, and we're not yet sure the long-term ramifications of getting COVID-19. And for young people, the research is showing that, yes, they do not get sick when they get it. We're as sick as other populations, but none of us is able to say that we know the long-term ramifications of what that is. And so I think that's serious. We're seeing Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh is a perfect example. Allegheny County, they have just closed down alcohol sales at the order of their health department. So they opened the bars up. Now they've had to close down alcohol sales, and that just happened just days ago because they saw the percentage of individuals within the I think it was 21 to 49 category skyrocket, and so they attributed it to a lot of the bars there. But again, I think empathy is the most important thing with this conversation, is understanding where people are coming from with it, having conversations with them. But we do know the university is working on branding, marketing to students, and as they're coming back, really imploring upon them the social responsibility that they have. And so, we really hope it resonates and people take it to heart.
So there's the
Oh, yeah,
empathy
please.
portion, and then there's just the potential factual portion that if you are sick with COVID-19 and you either have no symptoms or you have very minor symptoms, but you end up really spreading it, what is it going to look like for you for the entire rest of the school year if all of your friends and all of your acquaintances know that you just couldn't be bothered to wear a mask and you ended up infecting 40 people? You're going to have to live with that for the entire school year and possibly longer. And then, as Commissioner Pike mentions, you'll have to live with the fact that if there are serious long-term consequences to having COVID, you just gave that to 40 of your friends.
Follow up on what you said with Allegheny County. Would there ever be consideration here in Center County if it got to that point to do the same?
So what we've said, and this was said about 5 weeks ago now, was any determination on moving to different phases would not be occurring here. It's going to occur at the governor's office. It's going to occur with the Secretary of Health. But we have been in constant contact with them, asking them what that would look like. If cases increase here, what would it look like? And so, again, as we move forward, as we see other counties having effects of reopening and then needing to scale back, we're going to be mindful about what that looks like. Again, hopefully, and what we're really promoting is the masking, social distancing, and the hygiene. In addition, if you get sick, get tested, quarantine. Those are the practices from the CDC, from Pennsylvania Department of Health. We can do those. We keep businesses open, keep bars open, keep restaurants open. But if we're not seeing those practices, that's going to jeopardize the progress we've made. So again, that's not going to be happening out of the commissioner's office. It would be happening, again, governor's office and Secretary of Health.
What grade, and this may be more of an anecdotal experience for both of you, but what grade would you give Center County in masking? We've interviewed people in different areas of the county, and they have indicated that Center County, compared to Blair, Clearfield, for example, Huntington, they're just observing, again, this is anecdotal, but more people masking. What grade would you give the county?
So if you're doing it where it's I'm a big baseball fan, I think we're in the third or fourth inning of this pandemic. Okay, so we're still in the first third, maybe getting into the second third here. I think we're obviously here in Center County beating the virus in terms of all the great practices that are in place. The challenge is it only takes one person. If they're asymptomatic and they spread it to others, it goes undetected. So I think we're doing well. The problem with giving grades or saying, we're not done yet. We're not. So tomorrow we could learn new information about this. And so the one thing that in pandemics is we don't want to over reassure. We don't want to say we're doing this and then people start to. So I'm hesitant to do that at this point. I think that we are doing a good job. I think we're doing a good job, and that the more that we can do, again, masking, social distancing, hand hygiene, the better off we're going to be. But again, a huge thank you to the businesses and people of Center County.
I'm reminded of Garrison Keeler from Lake Wobegon with his stories. I would say Center County is well above average at this point in terms of how we're doing on wearing masks and our businesses working with their customers to ensure that everyone is wearing masks.
Sure.
What is the status of primary election results? Have they been certified, or where does that stand right now?
Yes, we certified them several weeks ago. I want to say about a week ago we certified them.
The election board meeting?
Correct, yes, yes. I believe it was at the conclusion of our Tuesday meeting. So a week ago, on the 23rd, we had met as an election board, yes.
Congressman Glenn Thompson has joined the President of the United States in filing a federal lawsuit yesterday in Pittsburgh challenging Pennsylvania's mail-in system. One of the issues in contention was the drop-off boxes similar to outside the vote line table. When the county approved the drop-off box, was there any consideration or discussion about its legality?
So pre-pandemic, when the law was passed for drop boxes, we were working on them at a number of different locations throughout the county, principally where we would be expecting high voter turnout on campus, some other locations throughout the community. And so we had conversations about what would be proper protocols. The Department of State actually provided guidelines on what drop boxes would need to have. And the big things were securing it, monitoring it, and making sure that there was a chain of custody, that once you remove the ballots, how do they get back to the office? And so from our standpoint, we use those same guidelines here. It was monitored 24/7 by a camera. Whenever we would empty it, we always had 2 individuals, and that was an election board decision. So there was 2 or more individuals. We also had a sheriff's deputy that was present at those times as well. And then once the ballots were taken from the box, moved into the elections office, they were monitored. They were monitored much like they would be with the mail system. From our standpoint, there were proper procedures in place. In addition, we sent them to the Department of State, and they had okayed them for those purposes. So again, it was done in a relatively smooth way. I will say with Congressman Thompson that during the last 13 elections, he's actually voted by mail 10 times. So the question to him would be, why is it okay for him to vote by mail, but the citizens of Center County can't? So I hope that he would clarify that and explain that to the citizens of Center County.
Has the county suspended the policy or the program of early release from inmates at the prison due to COVID reasons?
We haven't. So actually, during the time frame of late May into June 23rd, so a 30-day time frame, we have had no releases due to the pandemic in terms of an early release. And so as the courts are reopening, as there are more cases being heard, we think that those are occurring if there is a determination about whether it's incarceration or supervision in the community. That's happening at the courts rather than it being at the correctional facility. So I don't think we're going to see too many.
At a protest last week in front of the county courthouse, there was obviously chalk. Two questions. One, just confirming there's no official damage done to any property there. And 2, there was talk of maybe having discussion with different peaceful protesters such that in the future no potential damage is done in the future. So kind of a 2-pronged question there.
Sure. So yes, there was no damage done. To our knowledge, there isn't going to be any charges filed or anything like that. The chalking that occurred as soon as sheriff's deputies approached the individuals who were doing the chalking, they ceased. They stopped doing the chalking, from what the reports that we have. Again, since there's no criminal report, we don't have that. I will say I think it's important during these conversations to focus less on the chalk and the more on why these protests are occurring. And I appreciate people's concerns for the monument. I really do. I think I understand that. If you have loved ones that have their names on the monument, I could see how you would be upset by it. But again, we have the knowledge that we have is that there was not any chalking over any of the names of the people who served in Bellefonte. It was all on the Curtin statue and then the two murals that are in bronze on the side. And so again, chalk can be washed off with a garden hose. The lives of the people that we're losing in the black community can't be regained. So I think it's important for us to focus more on the lives lost than the chalk that can be washed off with a garden hose. Sure. Any further questions? Okay. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
Motion to go into executive session at 11:07.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.